The playoffs don't start after these next 10 games. The playoffs start now. 10 games. If you win enough, you're going to be in the playoffs, win the AL West. If you don't win enough, you might be out of the playoffs. It all comes down to these 10 games. So the playoffs literally start now.
Friday night, 10 games. Let's get this done.
We want the West. What did Jay Buhner say? Fuck the wild card.
Yeah.
Fuck it.
You tell him, Jay.
Tell me.
Mariners win the AL West. All of a sudden, there's a guy in Los Angeles named Shohei Ohtani looking at this organization, and he probably wants to be a part of something special.
I'm going to guess why you think Stanton's actually willing to do that, and it's because he knows the value that somebody like Ohtani will bring to his pockets. Not to baseball, not to his pockets. And that's the only reason he'll pay that money.
It's time to tap in. You are listening to the Sports on Tap Seattle podcast with two brothers, George and Sammy. Your favorite place to be a fan of Seattle sports. Let's do this.
Welcome on into the Sports on Tap Seattle podcast. Two brothers, as always, and this is the Seattle Mariners episode. I'm Sammy on tap.
I'm George on tap.
And as always, welcome on in. We are talking some Seattle Mariners, half a game back of the playoffs with 10 games left. We just had a Seattle Seahawks portion too. So if you're listening on Spotify, Apple, wherever, you can find our Seahawks podcast on this same feed. If you were on YouTube, you can find the Seahawks version of the podcast also on the feed. They're going to be side by side next to each other. So big weekend in Seattle sports. Seahawks
Absolutely.
game. You have UW going like you mentioned in our Seattle pod, and we have the Seattle Mariners. Half a game back. 3 against Texas, 3 against Houston, 4 against Texas. Well, the schedule matchmakers set this one up right.
They sure did, and this is this is already the playoffs. I know
This
we're
is
not
the playoffs, yes.
Yeah, we're not. I know technically it's not the playoffs, but it's the playoffs. We're playing for everything right now. We're playing for the division. We're playing for our playoff lives. We're playing like this is the 10 games of a season that's going to decide the whole entire season. 162 games. It all comes down to this, and this is going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be stressful. I'm so glad we have a day off today just to breathe.
I know. If I'm going to read these to you, that's why I'll have my phone out early. Well, first and foremost, I want to mention the Mariners. It's such an interesting situation, and it's fun, but obviously extremely stressful. We are talking about a situation. We have 10 games left. You're half a game out of the playoffs. You're tied for the last playoff spot in the wild card as well. And the Mariners in 10 games, this is why you said it's the playoffs, right? Because in 10 games, they can go anywhere from being AL West champions for the first time in 23 years to out of the playoffs.
Yep.
With 90 wins, let's say. They could be out of the playoffs if they go, whatever. If they win, if they go 7-3, they probably win actually, but if they go 6-4, they might be outside of the playoffs.
Right.
And
I think 6-4 will do it, though, because we got the Rangers. I think the Rangers would be out for 6-4. Well, I guess it depends on how we go 6-4, right?
if we go 3-4 against the Rangers and 3-0 against the Astros, we'd probably be out.
They were out. We're probably out.
And then it would depend. What did the Astros do, right? So this is why it's pretty crazy. Unless the Mariners win like 7 games, they are not guaranteed to make this playoffs. Even if they get 90 wins, but they are going to have to be anywhere between the AL West champions, the second wild card, the third wild card, or out of the playoffs all in these next 10 days as a good baseball team. We're not talking about a team that is fighting their way into a spot right now. Like we're in the spot. We're just all tied. So it's pretty crazy. It's unfortunate that one of these 4 teams, Astros, Blue Jays, Rangers, and Mariners not going to be in the playoffs because those teams all deserved it this year. They're all good baseball teams.
Great.
Minnesota is unfortunately the division winner.
Yeah. Twins. They make another playoffs. They've lost 18 straight playoff games. Do you know that about Minnesota?
So they're bad.
Yeah, in the playoffs. Well, look, wait. Who are we to talk? We haven't won a World Series. They've won 2 of them. So maybe I should pump the brake on talking shit about teams that actually have World Series trophies.
When you say that out loud, like Minnesota Twins really have won 2 World Series, and the Mariners can't even make one.
Yeah, exactly.
Minnesota Twins. I am going through Twitter. The Mariners did tweet, "Is it tomorrow yet?" this morning, and if you go through some of them, it's kind of that same response you said of like, "Thank God there's an off day." For like one reply, "Are you giving me a stress-induced stroke yet? I don't think I can. I don't think so, but I can double check. 10 days of chaos starts tomorrow. I love you, but I needed a day off. LOL." And like, nope, get some much needed rest. I'm not ready for a heart attack yet. And I'm like, okay, everyone feels the exact same way. Their anxiety is brewing, their stress is brewing, and it's like, I need this day to like prepare for the fact that like tomorrow's the MLB playoffs for the Seattle Mariners.
Playoffs start tomorrow. Get excited, folks. Like, it's gonna be wild. It's gonna be fun, and I know. Here's the thing. This is gonna be probably more stressful than last year's playoffs, I think, because we actually have a legit chance to win the division. Like, winning the division here is pretty crucial. That means you have a bye. That means you're already where you were last year. That means you're hosting a playoff series with the ALS champion as we ALS champions. Like, this is so damn important for the Seattle Mariners organization. Also means someone that everyone's tweeting about today, Shohei Ohtani, might see that the ALS champions are the Seattle Mariners, and he might want to sign with us. Like, there is so many implications here that can actually affect the whole entire trajectory of the future of the franchise. Like, this is crazy.
All right, we're getting ahead of ourselves with the Shohei Ohtani stuff. But
According to Vegas, we're in the top 3 in odds. Like, this
you know what Vegas doesn't know?
That we're the Seattle Mariners and John Stanton is cheap as shit. Yeah.
The Vegas is Googling, John Stanton, he owns a baseball team. He can afford this. They don't know that he would rather fucking sign like 3 random dudes and be like, trust me, this equals Shohei Ohtani for like $12.
No, but see, I'm actually going to push back on that for a second because I know he's cheap.
I'm gonna pause you.
Yeah.
You know why? Because I'm gonna guess what you're gonna say.
Tell me. Let's see.
You are going to say, in this specific situation, John Stanton's going to understand the economical boost because of the Japanese market from Ichiro and all the people that are going to show up to the ballpark and how much more money he can squeeze out of the fans. Jerseys,
Exactly.
His restaurant, the Hatbacks across the street, that used to be the brewery. He knows that, and he knows how big the Japanese market is in Seattle, and it is going to bring him triple the revenue
that he spends on him.
Other players like Juan Soto would not have done for him.
Exactly. If it was Juan Soto, he was not signing him. Shohei Ohtani, he's going to make a move trying to get him. You know they're going to be selling the Shohei roll in the restaurant across the street and at the stadium.
Yeah, and they're going to be selling a jersey. Like, they're going to sell 10,000 jerseys a week, like at the stores.
Oh yeah,
at the
different
game.
colors. One's with Japanese in the front. One with
every bobblehead night, every Shohei Ohtani giveaway night. It will be sold out like 45,000 fans. Yeah. So he knows. I agree. He knows the benefit. Like, as much as I love Julio Rodriguez, I think he's right here on my Funko Pop.
Right here I actually thought you meant he was right there. Like,
no. He's joining the pod on his day off here. He's right there. I love Julio Rodriguez, but there is not even a comparable impact, right, for like a market like Seattle. That somebody like Shohei Ohtani, it's like not even comparable. Julio Rodriguez, everyone loves him, but like, you're not going to sell out 45,000 just because Julio's at the stadium.
Exactly.
You will sell 45,000 seats just because Shohei Ohtani's pitching today or Shohei Ohtani's batting today and he's against the Red Sox. So like, everybody and their mother has to be at that game. So it does make a difference. But I think we should leave that topic for another day.
Yeah, I think we went overboard with it a little bit.
But it's a good point. But I will say something that you mentioned, that this is like crazier than last year. I think there's multiple reasons behind that. One, we went from a team that was like a pipe dream to make the playoffs, right? 21 years. It was a Cinderella story. Even if we didn't make it last year, like the year before we didn't make it, but we were 1 game out, 2 games out.
Right.
You know how memorable of a season that still was for me? Like, even though we missed the playoffs, but we were so close and we were fighting for it. Last year would have been just as memorable. Even if we missed it by a game, it would not just as memorable, but it'd be very memorable still that we were so close. And we got Julio Rodriguez, who blossomed into our new superstar, all these things. But now that we made it, that shit's gone. Like, now it's about making the playoffs and winning playoff games, right? Like, it's not about now, like, that was cute, we almost made it, how fun. Like, don't get me wrong, I am not bitching. I said this on Twitter the other day when they were when they lost like 4 in a row, was it? Like last week? I said, I don't have much to say because I'm not going to complain that much, because at the end of the day, I did spend the last 20 years not even understanding what it meant to have valuable baseball in September. Right. But I also don't want to give up on this team, and it is frustrating, but it's like a weird in between. But now we actually want to win, right? Like, I'm happy that we're contending, but it's not enough to just be almost there.
Yeah, I think one thing I was actually really thinking about a lot here is, let's just say the difference now is we went to the playoffs. We were happy to be there last year. And I'm not saying like it's World Series or bust, but if we don't win the World Series, like, everyone leaves with a sour taste in their mouths this year. Like, it doesn't matter. I'm not saying you still say, oh yeah, successful season, ALCS, let's say, blah, blah, blah. But you feel like you had a sour taste in your mouth because you can play with any team in Major League Baseball and you can probably win any series in Major League Baseball. You think you can, at least.
Yeah, I mean, if an Astros fan heard this, they'd be like, oh, blah, 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 blah. But the point is, speaking of my fiance's from Houston. So
yeah, I was going to say she probably
that was not directed at her.
She could probably hear. She will probably hear this.
Yeah, but I'm not directing it at her. She actually would agree with me on this. I'm talking about like Astros Twitter people. They'd be like, blah, blah, blah. And I'll be like, okay, at the end of the day, last year.
I would also like you to make sure you translate what blah, blah, blah means. Like,
I'm telling
what's
you right now.
Okay, all right.
Blah, blah, blah means blah, blah, blah is going to be from them. They would say that to what I'm about to say.
Oh, okay.
That you just said we know we can compete with everyone, right? The reason they'd say blah, blah, blah is because they beat us 3 straight games last year. But the Mariners, like, I hate to say this, they were the best competition to the Astros last year.
Right.
And it was, I know we lost 3 games in a row, but we saw the Houston Astros go on to win the World Series. We lost to them on a walk-off in the bottom of the 9th on that Yordan Alvarez home run that me and you were at that game, where they put in Robbie Ray. God fucking knows, I don't know why, but they put in Robbie Ray, walk-off home run. We could have won that game. The next game in Houston, we also came out to a lead. And then the last game was an 18-inning, 1-0 loss at home in our first playoff game in 20 years. If there was 1 or 2 plays in that series that flipped our way, we were potentially walking out 3-0 and going to, we're the best competition to that team who won the World Series.
Couldn't
I'm not
agree
saying
more.
we were better than them because they were better than us. They beat us. But that's how close we were, right? We're looking at, they went on to the next series and had an easier victory, and they won the World Series, I think, 4-2, so it was like not too hard. We were very good competition, and that's why I think what you said matters. It's like, we know we can be there.
Right.
And we're better this year.
Yeah. I'm not saying we're going to win the World Series. I'm not even predicting that. I'm not even predicting us to win the World Series. I'm just saying I know if we're in the playoffs and we get to the ALCS and we lost in 7 games, I'm going to have a sour taste in my mouth.
Because you're going to know that there was possibility that we could have gone further.
Yeah, like no matter what happens this year, I know there's a possibility that this team, we've seen baseball teams in our lifetimes, the Marlins, the Royals, like teams that seemingly came out of nowhere. And, for us, we don't think they came out of nowhere. But a lot of people in Major League Baseball might think the Mariners came out of nowhere to win World Series. So I feel like if we get to the playoffs, especially as AL West champions, and we don't get to the World Series and win the World Series, you're going to have a sour taste in your mouth. Either way, if you get to the World Series, people will be like, oh, yeah, I'd be really happy just getting there. Once game 1 starts, you want to win that whole damn thing. So, it's one of those things where, like,
but to your point, I'm looking at the standings here, right? The Seattle Mariners, outside of obviously there's 2 great teams in Tampa and Baltimore there. Seattle Mariners, 1 more win, they'd be the 3rd best record in all of the AL, right?
Right.
Compare that to the Twins, who are at 81 wins. They're like 7th best record in the AL, and they're going to make the playoffs. If they lose in the first round, there's no way realistically you should be able to say like, well, I knew we were we could have competed with the best.
Yeah,
of them. Like,
we were right there. No,
yeah,
probably
like
not.
no, you weren't. Yeah, like if you do win, it should be more of a damn. That's why it's awesome that the division winner is able to get a chance. But we are in that situation, like you said, where we actually have some evidence. Also, let's not forget this: we have the 4th best record right now, 1 game behind, half a game behind the Astros, for the 3rd best record in the AL, and that's considering being a team that was a lot of the year below 500.
Right. I think we
Until
still
they got
have, I don't know if we still have the best record since July 1st, but we're up there in the top 2 or 3 since July 1st. Which,
And you had the best August in the history of our franchise.
right. So at the end of the
Best
day,
month,
this
actually.
team is right there. We're with a stretch run. We're either going to be making a run at the playoffs to try to get to the World Series, or we're going to be sitting at home kicking ourselves because this team didn't make the playoffs somehow.
I have 2 quick things to mention. One is giving the fans, giving the people here their rooting schedule. Is who they're going to be rooting for this week. Obviously, we're playing Texas, then Houston, then Texas. Houston has Kansas City, 3 against Seattle, and then 3 against Arizona Diamondbacks. So we're big Kansas City fans right now. We're big Arizona Diamondbacks fans. The Texas Rangers play Seattle, the Angels, and then Seattle. So we're big Angels fans, that's going to be, God, Texas is really, they're playing a bad team and then us. That's it. So we're going to be big fans of a lot of Kansas City and Arizona this next week because technically for the Texas stuff, it's if we beat them enough times, we're good. But Kansas City and Arizona is what we're hoping for some big wins. So that's just one thing I want to mention. And second thing I want to mention, George, is Scott Service brought this up, and I want to know your thoughts on, how do you control this at the end of the season? He said they're not going to stick to a very specific rotation right now because they want to figure out, let's say next week there's a matchup against it's Astros and Verlander. Like, is there a way to stretch it out and get this right pitcher in? Or at the end of next week when it's the final 2-3 games, how can we have the right guys out there, right? I feel like, isn't it hard to manage that? Because then if you get in, you just used your ace, and now you have a 2-game. If you're in the wild card, let's say, you have to win 2 out of 3. How do you manage that in an effective way? Or is it just about get in the playoffs first?
Honestly, I have no idea. Let me just say this. This is all I can say about that topic is if it works, he looks like a genius. If it doesn't work, he looks like an idiot. And that's sometimes what you have to do in anything in life, sports, business, politics. You take a shot. You say, I'm going to try this. If it works, people call you a genius. If it doesn't, they call you an idiot.
Yeah, if it doesn't, they're going to be like, you fucking stupid Scott Service. We didn't have Luis Castillo in our wild card game because of this idiot. And then if we were in the World Series, we're going to be like, dude, this guy was such a genius at the end of the year.
Right. So that's all I can say. I have no idea. I really don't. I don't know how to manage pitching staffs. I don't know how hard it is. But yeah, if it works, great. If not, we'll point our fingers at him. I'll tell you that much.
Sure will. Big week for the Mariners. I'm very excited. And last but not least, I'm expecting, it's a better way to put it, Julio Rodriguez. I have that feeling he's going to do something like he had that 17 hits in 4 games. I think he's going to be unbelievable these next 10 games. I just have a strong feeling he's going to make a AL MVP push almost type of shit. 9 home runs in 10 games, something crazy. I'm not saying it's going to be every stat, but he's going to do something, I feel
9 home runs in 10 games, would be kind of a remarkable stat that I don't think we've seen in a very long time in Major League Baseball.
What do they call that? Hyperbole?
Hyperbole. But if he did if he does hit 9 home runs in the next 10 games, Sammy, you need to make sure you made it known. This clip needs to go everywhere.
Yeah. I said he was going to fucking do
it. 9 home runs in 10 games.
You're easiest prediction of my life. I should go bet it in Vegas. I shouldn't. That'd be a waste of money. But he's going to be remarkable is all I'm saying. That's how I feel.
You know what the Major League record is for home runs in a row and how many games in a row?
How many games in a row? 7?
Yeah, 8. Ken Griffey Jr.
Didn't Pete Alonso do 7 in the playoffs?
I think it was 7, yeah.
That was nuts with the Mets, I remember.
Yeah, Griffey's tied with multiple people though, by the way. But Griffey's one. That's the only reason I knew it is Griffey. Otherwise I had no idea.
Yeah, otherwise it would be some random white guy's name. Like Mark Churchill from 1906.
I feel like let's find this out. Sorry, this might be a waste of time for the podcast audience. I wonder, that sounded like a real baseball name, Mark Churchill. I'm going to Google that. Is there a Mark Churchill baseball reference? What do you think, Sammy? You said the name.
Well, I'm Googling it now. English Conservatory Music. I don't think there is.
Yeah, no Mark Churchill. I'm sorry, man.
There's been a Churchill.
There's been a Tim Churchill.
And there's been a Mark Church. Damn.
That was close.
Mark Church, a 18th round pick for the Mark Church is a AAA Texas Rangers.
Wow, he probably never thought he'd ever be on a name mentioned on a Seattle Sports
And
podcast.
He is African American. He is not white. I said some white dude named Mark Churchill. Mark Church is African American. He has dreads and he wears a headband under his hat. That is not a white guy named Mark Churchill.
All right.
So a little off there. A little off for me.
If you're holding a Mark Church rookie card, let me just tell you it's worthless.
No, dude, he's good. And AAA is 20 years old.
Oh, he's AAA 20 years old. I thought he said AAA 20 years ago.
No. He's in the 20th round or whatever. But He was like
okay.
8-2 in AAA this year, with like a 3 ERA.
Well, that's really good, actually. But no, I thought you said he was in AAA 20 years ago.
No. He's like he might be good. Hold that card.
Hold that. Yeah.
Who would have thought there's a Mark Church?
Did you say he's in the Rangers pitching staff?
I think so.
That means we're gonna see him playing one day, and we're just gonna be sitting there because he's going against the Mariners and be like, oh, there's that Mark Church guy we talked about.
Yeah, I know. And everybody listening to this is going to think the same thing. He is 18th round. He was the 18th round pick. So he's on the AAA affiliate. He's 22 years old. He was this year in 2023. He was 8-4 with a 3.7 ERA. So he's probably going to be up on the team next year.
Yeah. Well, good for you, Mark.
Good job, Mark. All right. Anyways, go Mariners. The playoffs start
Now, today.
Yeah.
Well,
Today,
tomorrow, whatever. But yeah, they're
Or
starting
today, whatever. Yeah. Playoffs, baby. All right. Much love. I think that's all we got. Let's
That's
get this
it.
out to the people. It will be in your ears soon. Like I said on the last podcast, if you've listened to the Seahawks portion, thank you. If you haven't, on the same podcast feed or on the same YouTube feed, you can see part 2 of this podcast episode, the Seattle Seahawks version, talking about the Panthers game coming up this week. And like, subscribe, blah, blah, blah. All that good stuff. Seattle on Tap on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, everywhere. And if you want to find our Mariners specific page on Twitter, it's Mariners on Tap. Probably the best place for your Mariners information.
Cool. You fill all those holes and plugs?
Sure did. This episode too. Filled all my plugs. I love you guys. All right, big bro. Love
right,
you.
brother.
And go Mariners.
I was going to say, I'll see you later, man. But you're like literally right there. So just so for those who know, we're in
You
the
will
same
see me
place.
later.
Yeah, well.
I see my older brother doesn't even give me a love you too. You see that?
Did you say I love you? I love you too, man.
I said love you, bro. Goddamn.
Oh, no, sorry. I was just thinking about telling the people, yeah, I love you so much.
Okay, now see, that was too much. That was too much. I love you so much was too much. All right, I'm moving on.
All right.
We filled all the holes. It's time to go. And you know what we like to say.
Hey, thanks for stopping by.
Thanks, guys. Peace.